Welcome to the Kingstonian, a podcast that profiles people who are passionate about what they do for a living, what organization they belong to, or the community they are a part of. Here is your host, Dave Cunningham.
On this episode of the Kingstonian Podcast, I connect with someone whose musical journey stretches back to his early days at Queen's University in the 1970s. My guest has built a life shaped by music, storytelling, and community. Along the way, he's released 6 albums for adult audiences and 3 for children, composed music for choirs, and spent decades sharing songs in concert halls, classrooms, and even on street corners. In 1992, he set out on what he called the original Trans-Canada anti-commercial direct contact full-age spectrum organic acoustic busking tour, a 10-province journey that brought his music directly to people across the country. But music is only part of the story. Alongside his creative work, he pursued a PhD in clinical psychology, working with children and teens, and often bringing music into the workplace. In more recent years, his path has also included collaborations with choirs, environmental stewardship, farming, and community projects close to home. Today we talk about folk music and storytelling, songwriting, busking, choirs, and the many ways music can connect people, whether on a stage, in a classroom, or around a kitchen table. Here is my conversation with Tom Mawhinney. Tom, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you very much, Dave.
Thanks for doing this.
Oh, I'm very happy to do it.
You and I go way back and haven't seen each other since way back.
Would be the 70s, I guess.
Like early 70s?
Yeah.
Mid 70s, somewhere in there?
I'd say mid.
Yeah. So how you been?
Well, it's amazing because, I had a whole career in psychology, which I just loved, doing standard clinical work and music therapy. And I did a tour in 92, 40 appearance, 10 province tour. And
I have this all planned out.
Oh, you have? So you're going to cover some of that.
I'm going to get all of this stuff.
Okay, so let me just say then that I am in a renaissance right now. In getting those insults and threats from down south, I started writing music right then again, solo guitar, because I'd only been doing choir music from 2000 on, and I got booted into the creative mode in response, and it blossomed into this new album that I like, and I got back into better choirs than I've ever been in too. So right now, I just joined the Martello Alley Cats a year and a half ago, but boy, I love singing with them. It's really good music and really good singers.
When I was going through your website, which is fairly new, and we'll put the URL for that website in the liner notes to the podcast so people can visit it. But I found the most succinct resume that I have read in a long while on that website, and I'm going to read it here. 6 albums of adult material, 3 for children, 10 province, 40 appearance solo tour in 1992 called the Original Trans-Canada Anti-Commercial Direct Contact Full-Age Spectrum Organic Acoustic Busking Tour. More than 30 songs composed for choirs, published as We'll Sing for Pleasure, We'll Sing to Please in 2020, and still going. I love that. I don't know that. Now, do you know that off by heart, that whole name of that tour? Okay.
Yes, I can. The original, anyway, I don't need to say it, but I have it, yeah.
Before we get into the albums and the tour, let's talk about folk music. Do you call it folk music? People don't like to be pigeonholed, but...
I do call it folk.
Okay.
Well, and traditional folk, pretty much, so message-laden. And, the thing from the choir book, too, I want it to be pleasing, so it's within the bounds of normal, traditional songs. Yeah. Verse, chorus, usually, and with pleasing melodies and harmonies.
In your long experience doing music, do you think that people still listen to lyrics in a song?
I think that decays under the influence of the commercial pressure to produce, because audiences expect it less and are listening more to the beat and the blare. And so I don't think it's, I mean, it was very alive in the 60s and Bob Dylan flourishing and other people I can think of sometimes. But really, Neil Young is always writing lyrics. And
Gordon Lightfoot,
yep.
Bruce Cockburn, people like that on the Canadian side.
Yeah, so those are real. And Leonard Cohen, you know, he doesn't write junk. He writes things that are good sense. And I'm sorry that's drummed out of commercial music because it's very rare in commercial music. So I do think the other part that figures in that is the catering to young tastes constantly. So, you know, you get a generation of 4 or 5 or 6 years that have one sound, whether it's garage, punk, or whatever, and then they have the commercial forces make you shift, and then the younger people then identify with the new form, whatever it is. And it kind of seems to me that it gets less and less form, more formless over time too, so that now it's just a drum beat and chanting words. Yeah, so less real sense in it.
When you're talking about judging how many people are listening to your music, I mean, when you were making actual physical records or CDs or whatever, you would be able to judge based upon who was buying your units. And now a lot of it is who's downloading your material that's being streamed.
Yep.
Now you are on, from what I can gather, most of the streaming services that offer music. Do you get some sense as to whether you're being listened to more that way or by the old days when it was a record?
Well, I'm assuming that I'm only playing to the people I see. Because I do, having joined, jumping through all those hoops to get it up on Apple Music and so on, Spotify, all those things, lots of hoops. And no return. I get no return. But no one knows. I've had that 20-year choir period, I wasn't involved in the folk scene whatsoever. I did a few house concerts, but that's what I've evolved to now, so that my standard audience is 20 or less, and I just love it. And people are very responsive. And I played to an audience of 16 in Napanee about 5-6 weeks ago. I didn't know a single soul. They were super supportive and, enjoyed it a lot. It was a lot of fun. And then in Kingston, I did one a month ago for 18 people, the same thing, but most of those people I knew.
Yeah.
So I felt really the same about both. The audience really enjoyed the concert. So that's the meaningful part to me. You noticed in the original TransCanada anti-commercial direct contact. So that's 92. So I have a very strong anti-commercial stance because I think it's a destructive force that suppresses creativity. So the face-to-face is best for me, and not mass audiences.
One of the things that I noticed in talking to a couple of other people who perform music that they have written, and I can think of one at the top of my head who has written a lot of music and puts it up on Facebook or some of the other sites. And he has recorded some material and submitted it for listening to what's called Americana music. And I don't know if you've heard that particular phrase before.
No, I haven't. No.
It's almost like a folk, quiet country kind of format that seems to be appealing to people, and I don't know if it's that popular out in the mainstream, in the big
general
world.
populace.
I don't know why they call it Americana music, but that's what it's called. Was this the folk music style? Was this something that you always wanted to do? The approach you always wanted to take, going back to the early days when you first got the bug for music?
Well, when I was I started writing I played guitar and banjo when I was in high school with friends. And then at around age 20, I started writing stuff. And I did take it, I sent it to some manager / producer / something, thinking, wow, maybe, I can be a star. That was never a big notion for me, but I did submit it, but I'm very cynical about it. I think Well, I'm glad that I didn't kind of go commercial, and I kept my independence in terms of my writing and what I can produce that is creative, because I'm super confident in my material. I really like it. And I say things, I use a quotation from Thomas Macaulay from around 1800 in one of the best songs on the new album. It's the last line of a song. It says, "Your life is a bridge between two eternities." And for me to be able to put that into a song, that's a bit of I'm mirroring what I have done in my choir writing there, because I've got some quotes from Don Quixote in some songs, and I do that repetitively anyway. I find a line that's very meaningful for me, and I find a way to embed it in a song. And I just love doing that, and it will never go commercial. That particular song is called Terra Firma, and it's a response to James Taylor's song Terra Nova, because he writes about discovering the new world in a very nice frame, musical, and he's incredibly creative.
He does some good stuff.
Yeah. But mine is talking about our path in space as a planet, and then where we are in the galaxy. Believe it or not, this is what the story of the song says. And at the end, the stars speak. And I mean, that sounds wildly unlikely as I describe it, but I love the song. And I have a very good friend. It's her favorite song on the whole album. So that you wouldn't do that in a commercial frame.
No. A lot of people who live in this area, now we're in the Kingston, Ontario area, would probably know you historically, if you will, from busking downtown.
In the market, yeah.
Now, for those people who have never heard the word before, describe what busking is.
Well, it's street singing, and I took a year off when I was about 22 and played on the streets of Vancouver, and supported myself for a whole year that way. Came back from there and started playing in the Kingston market. So it's just open air playing. I would borrow a crate from one of the vendors in the Kingston market and sit on it with my hat in front of me and just play and sing on the auto harp. So that was good because it was an unusual instrument. That's a pleasing instrument. But I might have written a couple of songs, but mostly I did traditional songs there. So again, that's a anchor of mine in the traditional stuff. But I did that for 20 summers and eventually just decided that was a good career. But street singing, amazing things happen. People come sit in your lap, children dance in front of you. People throw in a big bill sometimes. It's pretty amazing. It's quite amazing.
People sitting in your lap?
It happened once. Yeah. I think it was someone who was under the influence of something. So,
Talk about songwriting. So you mentioned that around that particular time when you were busking, you were thinking about ideas and putting them into some form. How did you decide on some of the early stuff that you would write about? Topics?
Well, you write about what's alive in your life. So my early songs are about love affairs and wishing to, whatever, find your perfect partner and on and on. I think for people in their 20s, that's the standard theme, and it never stops appealing to younger listeners than that. So that's where the commercial forces drive, as I see it. So I was in that, but I also I tried to put my own less shallow thoughts out as well, and I did write some good lines. There's a line of a song that I really love. Now, this is the song that foretold what I would be doing later. It's called Seeds, and it's from the mid-'80s, so that's a little later. I was in my 30s by that time. But one of the lines in that song is, "We've gone off the map in our hurry to lay down a road." So that, again, is a theme of mine, which comes out other songs, other places, that we're really not in control of how we're molding our world, and we're just in such a hurry. And anyway, that occurs in a couple of other songs too of that period, and I still believe it. I think we need to slow down. The forecast from that song, it's called Seeds, and there's a repeating line. I think what I need is to sow me some seeds in the ground, and now I grow a ton of vegetables for the food bank every year, you know? So, yeah. That's
Were you
kind of
planning
amazing.
on becoming a farmer at that particular time in your life?
I worked on farms a lot through my young years and even into a little bit older. And I knew I would like to live in the country, but I never had a plan. And the year I retired in 2008, within 6 months, I owned the place we're on right now, 150 acres of beautiful, beautiful property, woods and everything. So, yeah.
We talked a little bit about it at the beginning of this episode, and that's your career at university, the skills that you learned there in terms of the PhD in clinical psychology. Now, you worked with a lot of kids.
Yeah.
Talk about that experience.
Originally, well, in fact, my favorite cohort of people to work with, I started with, my first group to work with was preschoolers. And they were my favorites because they're really open, you know, and they don't hide anything. They don't have protective ego type things. Then I worked with school-age kids and adolescents, and that was at residential service. And I had a music group each week with each of the two residents as they kept the younger kids from the older kids. And that was really a joy musically, and it really a success psychologically because I had got them to earn things. Like, these were kids who were behaviorally out of control, living in a residence. Their families were coming in to train on how to work things out so that it was better for the kids and everyone. But the kids, almost without exception, just loved music group. It was an hour, and they could earn being the host or choosing the order of songs or doing a solo, and by their good behavior. So it was a phenomenal behavioral manipulative thing. Well, it's a treatment, really. And so that was really rewarding. I worked in the pediatric oncology clinic at KGH, our Kingston local hospital, for 5 years as well. And the same thing applied, although it was working with kids individually or kids and their families, singing with them. And if they would get involved in the music, they would be lifted right out of their frame of being ill. And that's a remarkable thing. There aren't many things you can do that. So it was very rewarding.
Now, did you do that kind of thing up until you retired in 2008?
I think I finished at the hospital in 2006. And then I had a small private clinic to wind down because I knew I was near the end of my practicing. And so I did. I kept doing a little bit of the music in the end, but not very much. Yeah. Not so much.
Let's go to that infamous tour in 1992. And let me give you the details, or give our listeners the details. 10 province, 40 appearance solo tour. So how big was the tour bus?
Oh, it was my car. Yeah. I had a blue Mazda. I drove it, started in Quebec. I did a house concert there in my very first appearance. I then drove to New Brunswick, and was one of the only two places on the whole tour where I stayed with someone I didn't have a link with. And darn, they had me sleep in the basement, and I don't think the water tap had been turned on in 10 years. And I was very thirsty on arrival. I drank a whole lot of water and got fabulously sick right away. The next day I had to play on a CBC local show, and it was touch and go. I didn't tell them that I might throw up any second because it'd been throwing up right up until, but I did the interview and sang one or two songs and it went okay. And then Halifax, and then Newfoundland, St. John's, and the power went out in one of my shows in St. John's. The other one, they went until 3:00 in the morning. I think it was just crazy. Then I came back via Ontario, did some stop. I played in Toronto and Ottawa at big clubs. Those are the big appearances. I played in Sioux Lookout at the school. Like, the whole school came to a concert, and it was really great. It was like 250 kids, and they were great. My kids' material is very strong, though I don't lean on it much now. Played in Winnipeg, played in all my sound system was stolen when I was in Edmonton. replaced that in time to make the next in BC. And the 40th appearance was at a preschool called the Toad School, which I just loved. And they were fantastic because I wrote a 40-page record of the tour, typed, and I ignored it until about maybe 4 months ago when I read through it, and I had no memory of this, but I thought I arrived late for that appearance at the preschool or the Toad School, and it isn't true. I arrived right on the dot, but I had been driving for an hour out of Victoria, and the roads were just crazy with traffic, and I was really stressed. But anyway, I guess preschools are pretty flexible, and they were just totally relaxed. It was really amazing. Anyway.
Now, I heard you tell the story of this tour somewhere else, and there's one particular aspect of this tour that I like, and that's for those who may not know you tend to play with just your hands. You don't have any picks, I gather, when you're playing guitar.
I finger pick.
So you broke a thumbnail.
Oh, yeah. So the first appearance was a house concert way the other side of Quebec, friend at Saint-Fidèle, and he had built his home there, really, really beautiful home, really skilled carpenter friend, and he was opening this new room. It was sort of like I don't know what you would call it, but anyway, quite spacious, and it's with a view of the St. Lawrence down the mountain. Oh, it was gorgeous. Anyway, I think I was helping him carry firewood in, and I broke the one nail that's the most important is your thumbnail. I broke the end off it. I've never done that before. And here I am just before the first appearance. And so anyway, I do strum too, though. So I can't really remember, but there's every chance that I strummed everything that I performed there. But then the first stop in New Brunswick, I got my thumbnail built up again. And I'd never had that. I think Scott Merritt used to do that with all of his fingers, because he was a finger picker too, but I'd never experienced it, but it was just great. It was as strong as anything, and it lasted right the way to, I think it was Edmonton, where I had to get it redone, because it hadn't, wouldn't have grown in by then. So Anyway, imagine, it's a little bit, it reminds me of what happened at my house concert just 6-7 weeks ago. It happened that Ontario Hydro decided to cut off my power that morning, and I didn't know it. So did they alert me with a half hour to go or something at 8 o'clock in the morning? Anyway, I just got my coffee in me, and I think it was a 1 o'clock appearance. But anyway, no power that morning. And so I don't know if it makes a big difference, but then driving over to Napanee, it's 20 clicks away or 30. There I run across the stopped traffic because they're adjusting the power lines right on my route. So, I was getting frazzled, but I managed to settle before we did that. But anyway, fantastic things happen, that get in your way. That thing at the beginning of the tour, oh my Lord, Jeez.
You talked about performing with kids, and you have done, 3 kids' albums.
Yeah.
Talk about how those materialized. They weren't all done in the same place, I gather.
No, I did one with a group in Toronto, one with a group in Elginburg, which is, again, about 20 clicks from here, a public school, and then I did one with a group from Ottawa. And in what I did was rehearse with the kids maybe 8 or 10 times to do 8 or 10 songs. And of course, they're really enthused and they learn fast. And so each one was sort of the same. We'd get prepped with 8 or 10 rehearsals and then go in the studio and lay it down. And good spontaneity, with the kids. And they liked the material. My kids' material is super strong too, about recycling and the history of Kingston-area and a lot of joking. What's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten? That's a good song. Mm-hmm. Some self-esteem songs, Be Who You Are. Very strong. I did one concert last summer for a Queen's young group, I think 12 and under. I really enjoyed it, and it was a bit of a struggle to remember. There's a good song, the breakfast song, lists everything you can imagine eating for breakfast. And I didn't do that one because I couldn't remember. I didn't learn it. I had not enough time to establish it in my memory. But there's a really good song, The Old-Fashioned Troll Living Under a Bridge. There's a very good song about a troll. So anyway, there's lots. I'm happy with that material, and in a curious way, I wish I could. I'll likely do one again this summer, I imagine, at the same place, but I don't want to play that much either. So now I'm really focused on trying to do house concerts, small audience house concerts. That I'm singing with my choir. I'm in 2 choirs now because I'm in Melodia as well, and I do love those appearances. But for the performing, I don't want to do too many. I wish I could do 6 a year or something of the house concert frame. That's what I'm targeting right now, and I don't want to expand.
You mentioned choirs, and for the uninitiated, thinking about a solo folk artist and working with a choir, that doesn't seem to match in my mind at first glance, but it's something that you obviously very much enjoy.
Well, it's wild. I don't go to concerts. It's curious, and it may be seen as being arrogant or something, but if I can play as well as the people performing, I'm less interested. And normally, I don't think it's a conceit. I really believe my material is strong. It's meaningful. It does reach people who are important to me. And so I had this choir, the Martello Alley Cats, and 12 singers and 2 instruments. The director, I'd had them do some videos of my choir songs, the director, with most of the cohort that's there now. So I knew them through that, and the director said to me, Steph Lind, her name is Dr. Steph Lind, she's a Queen's prof in music. So she said, well, we're doing a concert at St. George's. I said, I don't go to concerts. So anyway, I went, and they blew me away because it was so positive, spirited, energetic. It was Java Jive, I love coffee, I love tea, that they did that sold me on them. And so 2 days later, I wrote a song that's on my new album. It's called 2 Things, and it's a spoof. And I've written 2 other songs about the choir, one of which is the one I was mentioning for James Taylor. That I wrote for the choir. That's Terra Firma. And then there's another one that we're doing at a concert. I'm celebrating the release of my album in 2 weeks' time. And we'll be singing this song called They Only Want to Sing. So I did a tongue-in-cheek spoof song that's very good, I think. It's one of the best on the album. So that's 3 songs that have come in 1 year and a bit out of this choir stimulating my creativity. It's fantastic. It's really unbelievable to me. I wouldn't have thought to keep writing at that pace. I don't know if I've ever written at that pace. Anyway.
I'm going to sidetrack you here because something just popped into my mind that I was going to try and get someone's opinion on who is in the business. So when you go out and you do shows, you don't do a lot of shows, but I would imagine that from time to time you will play the same songs at different shows.
Yeah.
Depending upon the kind of show. My question is that I went to a concert in Ottawa last week from one of these major rock bands that has been around for a long time. And they get up on stage and they are doing the same music because for the most part, the people in the audience want to listen to the songs that they know. So from the perspective of a performer, when you're doing that, in their case, they've been playing for 40 years, playing the same song. They understand the dollars and cents of having to do those songs, but from their... Can you sort of put yourself in their place and say, I'm tired of doing this song because I've done it for 40 years?
That's a funny thing because I haven't performed enough to... Some of the songs I've written recently, I don't even really know it when I'm performing it for the first few times. I'm having to practice the one I just described so that I'm sure to get all the words out. It's really... but I think... I've reflected on that, and I don't envy the people who go on the road and do show after show after show after show that's the same, and it may be fantastic, but I think, there was one of the guys in the band in The Last Waltz comments on that. He says it's an impossible way of life. That's what he says.
Yeah.
So I never really aspired to doing that. The tour was wonderful. I mean, it was just, it was very stimulating. But, well, now I've got a list of 100 songs. That's my active repertoire for solo guitar singing. And
they're all yours?
No.
Okay.
Maybe 20 of them are mine.
Yeah.
And then but I do love, I mean, there's nothing better than Robert Burns' A Man's a Man. And if I do that one, it's an amazing song. And you have to say, listen, this isn't something against women that they're not named in the song. And it's singing about equality and brilliantly. I mean, it is thick with metaphors and just so smart. Anyway, there are others that's one of the peak songs, but I do a couple Leonard Cohen songs that are really potent, and James Taylor songs and Neil Young songs and Stan Rogers songs. All of those, I have songs that I think are among their best that are on my active repertoire, and I would never hesitate to bring them out, Mm-hmm. And even some of the obscure songs, like I don't think lots of people would know Leonard Cohen's Song of Bernadette, but it's very powerful, and simple, but I love doing it, mm-hmm. And the same with that Robbie Burns traditional song. There's another Scottish one that's just so heart-wrenching. It's amazing. It's super simple, but it's a fellow saying goodbye to his wife. And it's minimal words to convey really rich meaning. Really, and that's a traditional song written 300 years ago, I love doing that. And then cherry picking from all the Joni Mitchell too. And I'd like to be able to do a Farron song, Testimony. I haven't got it down, but I'm scoping out all the time to try and find new things that I'd like to present. But I never even get through the 100,
Right, exactly. So the difference between you and the band that I saw the other day was the fact that they are playing and I can't remember the words that you used before we started recording to describe the kind of popular music that's out there. Fist and gist? It's
derivative. Oh, so yeah, pith and gist is what I choose over froth and gloss.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically what you're offering is a wide selection of songs that people actually have to sit down and listen to the words.
Well, if they do, they get something out of it.
Right.
So the music is always pretty good too.
Yeah.
And, people are listening with different moods of their day and whatever. That is a good thing about the small audience live acoustic, because everybody is attuned and it. No one's talking, people stay focused, and that communication is the best thing about performing my own songs. But I love presenting songs that people haven't heard before, mm-hmm. and opening their eyes kind of, and not in a way, there's so much I'm on Facebook now because I'm old, but even there you see over and over again, wow, you've never seen anything like this before. And I think whatever the name of that other short video thing of people doing things utterly stupid,
TikTok.
No, I've never seen it before, but it is so trivial and meaningless, and it's a waste of time to look at it, the sitting in the room with the artist, with that material, there's a wealth of, that's a treasure. That's what I say. It's a treasure. Mm-hmm. So.
We also talked about this before earlier on in the episode, and that's the business of you being a farmer these days.
Right.
So how did that evolve? Was it a case of wanting to buy some property out in the country, which led to being a farmer?
Well, I've grown vegetables for myself my whole adult life. So I started at a co-op that I used to bicycle 20 minutes to get to in the city. And so I've been interested in, because we don't look closely enough at how our food is produced. And I don't trust normal grocery store food for additives and pesticides. So, I'm not a fanatic, but if you do grow your own, then you know where it comes from and it's safe.
Yeah.
So that was sort of the initial impetus. And so all through my career, I had a vegetable garden, but when I retired, I knew I wanted to do more. And so I now have, I have 2,000 square feet right now that I run with hand tools by myself, and it produces like crazy. So a ton of untreated vegetables to the food bank each year for the last 4 years. And I eat what I call the dents and the scratches, but they're just as tasty as, I like taking perfect food in to the food bank. The one place, Martha's Table, is very appreciative, and they say I'm their best, so that's really something that, and what could be healthier than to be, I'm getting elderly and I'm very physically active and staying fit by doing that too. Mm-hmm. So
exactly,
it's super rewarding.
That's what we all have to do as we get older, is find stuff to keep ourselves active.
Right. Yep.
I'm going to wrap up with a bit of a conversation about the new album.
Yeah. Because
you've already mentioned it. You're obviously very proud of it. And it seems to be, like you said, a renaissance in your career.
Yeah.
And how did the business of deciding to record this album come about? Like, you were working with choirs and doing house concerts.
Right. So it's a discrete event. And it was that ridiculous guy in the White House threatening Canada, And so I started a group in Facebook of all the musical responses to that, but I wrote one in English and one in French. Elbows Up is the English one, or no, Heads Up Canada, I call it, and Elbows Up is in the chorus, and then Attention Canada is the French one. It's a bit harder hitting, the French one. Most people, I'm not sure if it'll get any exposure anywhere because I'm in Ontario and I'm not frantically trying to get exposure everywhere. I'd love it if people could hear, but what can you do? Anyway, that happened, and then I wrote 2 things because of the Martello Alley Cats, and I pulled a couple of other songs that I was working on, and I'm not sure how the others come up, but anyway, I realized I wanted a good version of the Elbows Up songs. So I went to the studio, and once I was in the studio, I realized I had enough to do an album, and it was kind of, I really enjoyed all the time in the studio. We had to redo things quite a lot. I mean, I'm older and don't have the agility, and my voice isn't what it used to be. It's not bad still. I'm singing well, but it's an old voice now. But anyway, when I realized I could do it, I just jumped in and we did it over a few months.
Now, we are recording this episode in the first half of March of 2026, and the album will be officially released at the end of March, towards the end of March, the 22nd, correct?
Well, that's the celebration. So I released it last Friday, whatever. I think that was anyway, 6/3. It was the 6th day of the 3rd month, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, the 6th of March. It's now alive at it's on Band. I decided to go Bandcamp instead of whatever the heck the other one, DistroKid, because it just seems a fair. Whenever you sell something on Bandcamp, you get the money within 48 hours.
Okay.
And the other one, I haven't had a payment yet, and it's been a year and a half. Although I don't think they're cheating me really. It's just that no one knows who I am, and I think everybody in Kingston knew me from the market. 80% of the people of Kingston would know my profile or whatever. But then I disappeared for 25 years. And so I don't really have a following. I'm not familiar to people now. So,
but even when your name gets mentioned, I know in my experience, they'll know the name and they'll know where they know the name from. But they're going, okay, so what's he doing now?
Well, see, that's an interesting thing I thought of this 10 minutes ago and wanted to say it. I noticed that the people, this is normal from a number of perspectives. My audiences now are kind of elderly audiences. So the younger people are into their own, whatever era, whatever the music was of their era, they're streaming that to their earbuds. And I'm playing now for people who were in the era that was meaningful for me, the folk movement in the 60s, 70s is where I still am. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense that I have people of my own age and stage.
And going back to the concert that I went to in Ottawa, just to build upon your point, we're sitting there waiting for the songs to come on that we know, and the band is playing all sorts of material we just don't recognize. And
Right.
a lot of the people in the audience were politely clapping at the end of the song. But when the song came on that they recognized, I mean, they went crazy. 'Cause
Right.
they know the song.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
from their area, which is basically speaking, but in reverse, because you're playing what you're familiar with based upon an era that you started and continue.
Right. I've
With.
kept the form. I've
Right.
kept the form.
With new
And
material.
yeah, I advocate for the form too, because I think from a psychology point of view, singing together and listening to meaningful things together, and those are emotionally healthy. They are health promoting. And I suppose they could make a case for the mass audiences waving their arms and jumping up and down. That's an exhilarating thing, but I kind of feel that the closeness in a smaller audience is meaningful too. It is to me. When I know everyone is listening and then I know they like it, that's again, I think I said it was a treasure, and it is. Yeah.
When you do this celebration of the release of the album at the end of the month, I gather that it's by invitation only, but there is an admission charge,
Well,
I'm told.
we're fundraising for Martha's Table. So there's nothing obligatory, but there will be a donation jar for Martha's Table. So that's how I've done my last two. I've promised Martha's Table 4 concerts. So this is the 3rd in the series. And so it's not obligatory at all. And it isn't really by invitation. I'm going to put it on Facebook, but I'm going to say, if you like my music, you're invited.
Mm-hmm.
So it isn't, I'm not trying, the point is not to get a big crowd. And I think I've invited about 30 people who have said they'll come. So that means 24, 25. I would like 30 to 40 in order to have a nice audience for the choir, but we could do it for 25. It's not we've sung for smaller audiences than that. But I'm going to put a note. I'm finding out first from my new choir, the 28-member choir, if some of those people are coming, because if a half a dozen of them come, we could take up to 60 in the hall. It's the little community hall in Moscow where we have I'm deeply involved in that too. I'm the coordinator of a breakfast a month there, and we serve 100. On Saturday last, we served 154 people breakfast at our little Crossroads community hall. Mm-hmm. So anyhow, I don't think I don't know about Facebook people. I think, I have like 150 friends or something, Facebook friends. Lots of them I think wouldn't be that keen on coming. So I want to get people who will enjoy the 3 songs that I do and the 7 songs that the choir does, because it's mixed. It's not just me. It's the Martello Alley Cats singing too. So
I heard, though, that in addition to donations to Martha's Table at this particular event, there's also a request for people to bring something else, if they so choose.
I don't know what you're saying. I don't.
I thought cookies was in there.
Oh, for heaven's sake. Well, that isn't, oh my goodness. What in the world? How did you hear? So one friend from the breakfast is bringing cookies. But here's what I think you came across. Before I did my first house concert, that was my 2nd or 3rd. When I established the link with Martha's Table, that became the driver of the show. The 2 I did before that, or maybe 3, I was offering to do a concert for 2 packaged dinners and 2 pies. That was the charge for it, and there was no money change hands. It was just so one. I did 2 of those. So, but I'm working from a position of, I think I have a really good show. Nobody knows who I am. So I was trying to make it tempting for people to bring me into their home. And I'm still looking for hosts if I can find them. Mm-hmm. But I've talked to the people at the United Way too, because I'm a strong supporter of United Way, and they'd be keen for me to do some more house concerts for their benefit too. But no, you caught me. That's how I was trying to drum up business you might have found something on Facebook about that, because I did offer to do it for 2 box dinners and 2 pies. Yeah.
Well, actually, it was from an interview you did with this fellow from Texas.
Oh.
And you said that the cookies were for you because you enjoyed eating the cookies. Now, you were eating a cookie a day, but you don't do that anymore.
Oh, no, I do. Oh, and in
you?
fact, so I just finished the one. See, at the second of my ones for Martha's Table brought the refreshments, and that was the group of 18, and they didn't eat everything. So I brought home quite a lot of cookies and quite a lot of Nanaimo bars that I still have maybe 8 Nanaimo bars that I don't even eat one a day because I can't. But they came and brought all the stuff, and then I brought it home. So there will be a cake at this celebration a week from Sunday, and I'm hoping everyone eats the cake, but there are some cookies coming too. And I've been imagining, this is so bizarre, I had my internal dialogue saying, well, I hope Marion will leave the ones that she brings that don't get eaten, but she might take them home, and that's okay. Oh, my goodness.
Well, good luck with the celebration of the album, and I thank you very much for the time you've given me today, and I really enjoyed the conversation.
That's great, Dave. I enjoyed it too. Thanks for having me.
My thanks to Tom Mawhinney for sharing stories from a lifetime in music, from busking and touring across Canada to writing songs for choirs and building community through music. You can learn more about his recordings, choir music, and upcoming house concerts online, including details about his newest LP, Living This Day, by heading over to his website, tmawhinney.ca. That's spelled TMAWHINNEY.ca. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider following the Kingston Podcast, sharing it with a friend, or leaving a review wherever you listen. It really helps others discover the stories we're telling. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back soon with another conversation.
The theme music for the podcast is Stace's Oasis, written and performed by Kingston musician Tim Aylesworth. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions about any of the episodes, please send a note to the Kingstonian Podcast at gmail.com. For details on upcoming guests, follow us on Facebook. The Kingstonian Podcast is hosted by Dave Cunningham and produced in Kingston, Ontario, Canada.